let's dive in. So Paul's our student showcase for today, and go get and Jane is here. Jane works with him, so y'all do find them, fund them, run them, and give us a lowdown of this facility would be good, and what all
Yes.
y'all are doing.
Good morning. So let me pull up my screen here, but I'll first kind of prep this. So we purchased a facility towards the end of 22. It was our first facility. Had no idea what we were doing. Stepping into this world of self-storage through your guidance, Stacy. We started trying to figure out what to do, and you know, we've gone a long ways from then. What we're going to cover today is really what the last 14, 15 months have been for us. We've gotten the facility stabilized. Let me just share my screen here. I have some props to help my song and dance today. So let me get that going. Let me know if you guys can see my screen here.
Looks good.
All right. So this is Self Storage Goldsboro. We're based in Goldsboro, North Carolina. And
those colors look really good.
Yeah, you'll see the before and after here we did with the facility. We bought the facility and it looked pretty beat up. These are really kind of the specs on the property. It's small, right? That's what we were kind of looking for when we started. You know, anything larger seemed too big at the time, and now I can't find one big enough. But this one, it's 3 buildings, you know, it's about 5,800, you know, total rentable square feet, 48 units. We do still currently have some units offline. We have 6 that are offline only because there's spring and door issues, but we're actually getting those online now. We waited, that was part of the plan. You know, start getting some money in, get this thing on its feet, and then we would work on these other units on the back end. So it's a mix of 5 by 10s, 10 by 10s, 10 by 15s. Here on the valuation, right, because it was totally empty, we found this facility, this owner had not done anything with it. It actually had one tenant who was barely paying, and it was pretty much just a ghost town over there. So, you know, when you run your numbers in the calculator, valuation was in the negative realm. But the good thing about this facility was we were able to do a seller finance structure with him. So the purchase price was $125,000. We put 50,000 down. It was 5% interest. This is before the rate started to adjust. So, you know, he gave us a good rate, 5-year balloon, over a 20-year AM. And he gave us 6 months of no payments, which really helped because there was no money coming in and was not generating anything, right? Our goals and objectives were really initially learn how to operate, right? Learn what this business was. I've been in real estate for a long time. I was doing single family acquisition, you know, wholesaling, totally different animal. You know, buying and selling property is one thing, but actually learning how to operate and manage these kinds of facilities was a whole new game to us. So really learning how to do it and learning how to do it from afar. I'm in California, facilities North Carolina. My back office manager, Jane, who's on the call, she's in the Philippines. So we're literally running this from the opposite side of the world. So really, you know, like I say, the first step was to learn how to run this thing and really get it to sustain itself, right? Get it to produce money, get it to generate some revenue. And that's what we started working on, right? So you see here, this is some before and after. I'll show you some others too. Place looked pretty beat up. The colors were kind of just that. I hired, his name is John Collins. You guys might see him around in some of the Facebook groups. Stacy, you might have engaged with him, but I know some people in the group have. This guy's great. At the time, he was actually working for another company. I'm forgetting what the name of it was, but the guy who was running that mean SOB, let's put it that way, right? But John Collins, the guy who actually did the painting, has since gone off on his own. The guy is fabulous, really nice guy, and he did an excellent job, really, really quick, and brought new life to the facility. I thought this was really important to do because, you know, as time goes on, you know, people coming and going past this facility, it just starts to blend in. And my idea was to really just bring color.
I can either take it or
bring some color and have a pop. And this yellow, they call it safety yellow. It's the yellow that's used on lines and
Pete loves that
plates.
color.
And once the light hits it, it pops, which is
He
great.
likes
So
yellow.
anytime in the afternoon, once the sun's setting and the sun's coming in here from in front of these doors, it hits these doors, and it's like it brightens up. It's like a bright sign, right? So here, let me show you guys some other quick. How do I get out of this thing? Hold on 1 second here, guys. There we go. So we have. Sorry, too many things floating around on the screen. Here we go. Oh, well, maybe I don't have that thing. I'll show you guys towards the end. So anyhow, this is what it looked like. So we went around, we didn't replace fences. We actually cleaned up the fence and we repainted them. So it made a big difference because some of these fences were rusted up. We used Pete's locking system. It's obviously these are manual gates. So we did the manual system, green lock being what the tenants get, black lock what our caretaker uses, and the red lock is for the fire department. I'm not sure if any of you guys have any experience with the fire departments coming in, but knock on wood, we haven't had to have them come in and bust through yet, but we do have that there for them. We made some improvements in the facility. We had these old LED lights here that were sucking up a ton of energy. Not LED, what do you call these things? Old bulb lights that were sucking a ton of energy. And then
Incandescent?
yeah, incandescent. More, let's call them expensive lights, right? Because
It's like every facility has these lights when it's older.
these guys, yeah.
These what yeah, to the left, and then you want to update them for sure.
Yeah, so we updated them to this. These are Philips Luma LED, Luma LED is what they're called. These are adjustable. You can bump them up from 45 watts up to I think 80 or maybe higher. We have them down at 45. That seems to be enough. It lights them, lights up the facility pretty well. And the most important thing out of them is it kept that power draw low so that our electric bill has stayed low. That was something that we're keeping an eye on. Obviously, this being a small facility, every little action makes a big difference, right? On expenses and income. So everything that we do, we really take a close look at to see how much impact that's going to have. And thankfully, the lights on top of it, being more efficient, more light. It was great on the expense, electric expense. That's really the only thing drawing energy because we use solar panel cameras. This is before and after of the sign. Obviously we covered this. This was an office that was converted over. My idea initially was maybe considering to switch these over. It's not in my plan right now. It's kind of where we store some stuff. Maybe when we sell this, it's some upside for whoever buys this to convert these back over. But these are both 10 by 15 units, so we got 20 by 30 space in there. They actually had I'll tell you guys a quick little story. A restroom in there, and which we've never used. Right? We had offline. There's well water. That's part of the facility. Our first caretaker actually made a big no-no. We had told him, don't use this, this is not to be used. Sure enough, he went in there, used it, made a whole mess, made a whole situation out of it. That was his last day working for us. We actually moved away from him after that. But we've since, terminated the water. There's no water running into that thing. And we'll either figure out what we're going to do with them or, like I say, leave this for some upside for whoever ends up buying this facility from us in the future. Here are some of the numbers. So I really want to focus on initially with you guys who are talking about spare foot because we really leaned on spare foot to get this thing filled up. First and foremost, because we didn't really know what our game plan was for our own marketing, for our own websites and ads and all that sort of thing. So while this thing was being cleaned up, repaired, while we were figuring out how to run this thing, we just relied on Sparefoot. You hear a lot of mixed reviews on Sparefoot out there, but I think if you set your expectations right and you know what you're going to get from it and use it a certain way, it could be, fantastic, right? So over the course of 2023, we spent $2,900, right? And that mostly got us filled. We got 32 bookings out of that. As you see here, it turns out to $92 per person. But that $2,900 generated over $11,000 in revenue, which 8,400 is what we kept for the year, right? So really knowing how to price your units and how to and staying on top of what your competition is doing and staying on top of it, not weekly or monthly, but daily, really makes a difference. Obviously, we had other leads come in, right? And as we had this operating, we were working on our website, working on our online presence, which I'll show you here really quickly. Let me get out of here somehow. How do I get
I'm
out
glad
this
you
way?
brought this up because I think there is a lot of negativity towards Sparefoot. But
Yeah.
we do an analysis between Google, our Google ads and our Sparefoot ads. And Sparefoot is cheaper on our end for a lot of our ads, and so I just, we talk about this a lot in the facility owner mastermind.
And and we had
There's
no
nothing wrong with using Sparefoot.
right, and we had no baseline, right? So it's not like we already ran ads and knew, our CPA would be like, $50, $60. We had none of that, right? So we needed something to get going. Sparefoot's established. They have many websites out there. It works, right? So what I'm saying is don't pay attention to the negative. Try to work with it. Try to work with it with understanding how it operates, understanding how you should be working, your pricing, run specials through there. That's what we did. But while that was running, we were also working on this stuff, right? We're working on improving our Google My Business presence, right? And we have we have this fully set up. We post regularly on this thing, which makes a big difference. We have products on here, right? So if you click on a product, it basically shows you what it is. Nothing super special, but all of these components inside of it make a difference, right? It makes Google actually present it out to the world more than if this stuff wasn't set up, right? Always keeping, nice, pictures on here and working on reviews. We're always trying to get reviews, more of an effort nowadays to anybody that's at the facility or any positive experience with any tenant, any fees that we waive, that's how we leverage it. Hey, sir, no problem. We can remove that fee. Would you mind doing us a favor? Just posting us, would you mind posting a 5-star review? They do. And then we, remove that fee. $10, $20 fee is well worth another review for us, because it goes a long way, right? So while we were working on this, we continued working on Sparefoot, adjusting those prices, like I say, daily, keeping an eye on that sort of stuff. We reduced, in some cases, we reduced some of the units, like the 10 by 10s, down to like $39, right? We started doing this so that we could obviously get people in, but then we presented it as a special to move in, and we let the tenants know that after 2 months, the prices would go up. After 2 months, because that's you get charged for 2 months. Our bid rate with Sparefoot was 2.0. I tried not to increase that so much, because otherwise you're paying for this thing down the road. You can increase the bid rate to 3, 4, 5, whatever, and get really aggressive. I didn't really find we needed to do too much of that. We just played around with the price, lowered the price, and then just did a price increase at month 3. So let's continue. Any questions so far, guys?
Well, all the while that you're going through this, maybe just bring up are you going to get into like how you're managing it? Like, what does your boots on the ground person do, your caretaker? And then like, what does Jane do?
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well?
I'll get into that one
Okay,
second.
good. Okay.
The Sparefoot. slide here. So another thing to keep in mind is our average tenant stay is 6.2 months, right? So keep this in mind, right? Like, I mean, you might think spending 2 months for a tenant to come in seems expensive.
How do you figure that out?
Well, we just added up the total stays for the tenants, how long they stayed. Some stayed as long as 14 months. Others left after a month, and then this is the average stay.
That's your customer lifetime value, basically, is what that is.
For spare foot, right.
Oh, yeah. 6 months is where you can, how much money you can spend in order to get a person in.
So on this stuff too, I've also, I look at like the bigger picture. If you get too focused on the month to month kind of stuff, things might seem kind of out of whack or just expensive or, don't make sense. But when you look, you take a step back and you look at it, well, if your average tenant stays in for 6 months, you have a cheap rate, increase rates, you start kind of doing the math and you walk into it and you realize, okay, we can do this, going back to how you see a lot of negativity towards barefoot. Yeah, that happens. People come in, somebody might move out after a month, right? And you've already paid 2 months for that lead. But, it all kind of evens out if you look at the big picture of it, right? Not just the one individual tenant. So let's keep going here. I'll get into how we run the facility here in a minute, but I want to show you kind of the increase in revenue, right, from all of 23, right? So we kept working. We wanted to get this place to sustain itself, right? And we hit that point right around, I believe it was around May, instead of coming out of pocket, right? Because remember, this place was just not generating anything, right? So as soon as we went into ownership of it, we're paying out of pocket for all things necessary. But as you see, everything steadily started going up month after month. We had growth. October, you see, you have some spikes throughout the year, and that's a lot to do with delinquencies. Sometimes you collect those delinquencies, 60 days down the road, and they kind of bump up that month. So that's kind of where you start seeing some spikes, right? Here's a breakdown, and I want to kind of point some things out here. When I started doing my initial analysis, you're not really thinking about the additional revenue streams that you're going to have here, right? You're only thinking about rent. But as you see here, there's other, sources of revenue. Insurance revenue, right? It's almost 12% of the revenue. That's important. If you guys aren't offering insurance, you certainly should. I'd say about 90+% of our tenants are on our insurance plan. People come in, they say they want to use theirs. They never, submit the declaration form, and, lo and behold, boom, they're on our program. So they almost all convert over to buying our insurance through us. Admin fees, that's another great source of revenue, right? It brings in additional money. And then there are late fees, right? I love late fees, right? You might complain about tenants that aren't paying, or, paying the ass tenants because of whatever reason. But, if these fees are getting added and, you're on top of your collections, you're going to get this money, and that makes a difference, right? So, and then lock revenue, right? So in our case, we don't rent, or we're not selling locks, but when people move in, they have a Da Vinci lock, and, they're instructed to take that lock, attach it to the fence, and then we take it back. But there are times when they don't. They either keep the lock, they put it inside the unit, they just don't return it, and we charge for that, right? So we try to find ways to make a couple extra bucks, right? Because, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, all this stuff adds up, especially on small facilities, right? I want you guys that have a small facility or are looking at getting a small facility, because that's where you want to start to really, pay attention, right? Because every little thing makes a significant difference on the small facilities. Larger facilities, there's certain actions and certain things that happen that it's, the result won't be as significant. These are our expense breakdowns, right? And this is really where we're now focusing, now that we've gone through the whole year, on how do we tighten this up? Because again, since it is a small facility, we're trying to squeeze out as much as we can from it. And not only how much, more revenue can we generate out of the small facility, but how can we run it even tighter, right? So we know how we run it, and I'll get into that right now. You know what, like I said, we run it virtually. We do have a boots on the ground, right? Because of course you need that. You need somebody to come in and clean out and do all the stuff that needs to be done in person. But all of the, the tenant leasing and all the customer service is done by remote, mostly done by Jane, who's on the call right now. Jane is in the Philippines. Jane's been with me for many years now. She was with me as we were doing single family, and then crossed over into storage, and she's become an excellent manager. Much more a better manager or a customer care person than I am. She really knows how to handle those calls when people call in. But we look at how do we provide a better experience? How do we maximize our income and minimize our expenses, right? That's the everyday mission for us. But these are the expenses that we have, which are probably very similar to many of you guys. But now, when you get to this point, a year after getting it stabilized, I'm now looking at this stuff to see how I can reduce it. I'm actually going to the trade show in Vegas this week and meeting with different vendors. I want to have those conversations on, how can I shrink? How can I cut my expenses down? What other vendors?
Why is your mortgage so expensive?
It's $495 a month. So that's
it's $490. That's okay. So this is for the whole year.
yeah. This is for the full year, not monthly.
I was like, wait, okay, yeah. So this is
this is monthly.
This is $23,000 for the year, and you made 22,000. No, what did you make?
We
It was like 22,000 or 23,000, right? So you're breaking even is what you're doing right now?
Yeah, we were breaking even, and I think we made 6 for the year.
Okay. That's good. I mean, that's just these little tiny facilities, you're not really making that much money.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, you're not getting rich off of these facilities, right? And that's
No,
what
the upside should be good.
yeah, the upside is totally where it's at, and also most importantly, really the experience and learning how to operate these and really learning what we
You
do.
only had to put 50 grand down. I mean, come on, for 50 grand, you're learning how to do all this.
Yeah, I mean, full out of pocket cash was probably like 85 grand,
Focus like the painting
and stuff like that. And then just, a little bit of money to operate it until those, until the income, caught up. But most importantly, out of these small facilities and anybody listening, these small facilities aren't going to make you rich, right? But they're going to make you definitely a lot richer in experience and knowledge, so that you know how to take that next step. This has kind of been our learning or our canvas or training ground for our next move. I certainly know a lot more than I did when I bought this in 22. I've really like focused on understanding the various components, so that when I get into a larger facility, we can get in there, take it over quicker, we can improve it quicker, we can, drive that next facility even better.
That's exactly what you're supposed to do, Paul. I mean, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. Because you only had to come up with like 50 grand plus another 30. So you're all in at 80 grand to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to make that money back on the sale.
Yeah. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I'm super happy with where it is. Again, this isn't these facilities, these smaller facilities. Yeah, they might feel more comfortable and doable. They're not going to make you a ton of money. I mean, as a matter of fact, they're not barely going to make you any money. But
not any cash flow.
Well, now we're cash flowing, but it's still, I mean,
yeah, but not a lot of cash flow, but you'll have some upside on the back end.
Definitely upside, but and then also, the experience and knowledge on how to operate one of these, which is priceless, right? I mean, without spending 14, 15, 16, 17 months operating one of these, you wouldn't know, right? So that's really I think the importance of the smaller facility. If you're getting into a larger facility, right, that's fantastic, but obviously the risk is a little bit higher. If you're a little bit nervous about going in, I think these smaller facilities are wonderful, so you can cut your teeth on these small facilities and really feel even that much more confident on the next one,
A
right?
lot of people honestly get hung up on like, oh, it's just too small. But the question, I mean, that's the thing I always say to everybody is like, how much are you willing to spend to actually get yourself in this industry? Because what happens is people end up not buying anything because they can't afford what they really want.
Right.
That's what I see a lot of. That's my point.
So this week, since I'm going to Vegas, right, it's to meet with other vendors. We're going to look at each one of these items, see, is there another vendor that can, we can reduce the expense. Obviously, some things we can't. Mortgage, that's a constant. Repairs and maintenance, this is definitely going to be
What does
much.
that include?
I'm sorry?
3,500 for repairs and maintenance. What does that include?
That was changing of hasps. That was Jay, maybe you can chime in on repairs and maintenance, but it was a lot of like just around the facility type of things, changing the door parts, maybe
The locks, yeah.
yeah, the locks, lighting equipment.
Door
There's a lot of
handles.
stuff that we're not going to have to pay again this caretaker pay, right? This is kind of a baseline, right? And each year, like I kind of look back to the previous 12 months to see kind of where we're at. And the caretaker pay, this was kind of like our baseline number. So if we spent 3,400 last year, we had a lot more activity with our caretaker on site because there was just more hours. There was more things happening
Well, that's just $250 a month.
Right, but we can even tighten this up for this next year.
Yeah.
Is my point on it. And then like spare foot, we get a good price, through the discount through this community, which is great. But I'm gonna have conversations with other back end tools, see what else is out there, just get informed on what the other options are. Tenant insurance, right? This is another opportunity to see who else is out there. Our commission split on we use Bader through Storable. We get 40% of that insurance insurance, what do you call it, policy. So I'm going to take a look to see, is there anywhere I can make up a few extra bucks, especially on like I said, on these small facilities. A couple of extra dollars goes a long way. So merchant fees, is there somebody else that can give us a little bit less on the merchant fees? Because as you see, that's $1,300, right? These are kind of things you don't really think about when you're buying the facilities. But these are this is the reality of the fees that you have to deal with, right? So these we'll continue to try to improve them. Obviously your mortgage, and that's always going to be the most expensive expense for you unless you're buying cash out there. But future enhancements really increase revenue and minimize expenses, right? That's really the name of the game. How do we
you at a
continue
point where you can increase your prices?
Yes, so we started raising rents some months ago. We kept our oldest tenants at their price for a long time. But once we started playing with the spare foot, getting them in cheap and then raising the rent on month 3, it was about the same time to start raising rents. So we have started raising rents. We're pushing rents every month. Anybody that's there for more than 6 months, automatically, boom, they get that increase. There's no
$5 increase or something.
It depends, right? So I wish I could tell you we had like there's a formula, follow a formula. We don't do that, right? I think it's important to really kind of look at what's happening then at that moment, what's happening with your competitor pricing, and make adjustments as needed, maybe even down to the individual tenant, right? So there's no solid one rule for what we're doing with price increases. We're evaluating different factors. One being if the tenant's a pain in the ass, we may increase the rent, faster and more aggressive than somebody that's a good tenant, only because, why not, right? And for instance, we had a tenant that was kind of a problem tenant. Instead of kicking them out, right? Which initially I wanted to. We increased the rents. So we got about, I think, 2 or 3 months increased rents before he moved himself out. And then he moved out on his own terms. We had increased rents those 2 months, and it worked out to our benefit, right? Because I was trying not to kind of, get this guy upset. The worst case scenario is you don't want this guy like leaving, damaging your facility, kicking in the door or something like that because
Or
he's
giving you a bad like review.
yeah, I mean that's the number one thing. I don't want a one-star review on Google, right? So at all costs, we're trying to make sure that they're comfortable, they're okay. Obviously to a certain limit. But yeah, I mean, so raising rents is important to us now. So our oldest tenants, they keep getting bumped up. We're having an eye on our competitors' street rates. We're monthly, doing our due diligence on our competitor pricing, right? We do that all the time, both on the spare foot and on what they're offering direct themselves, because you want to be aware of what your competition is pricing out there. So I want to show you where we were when we bought this and where we are now. So this is what our valuation looked like, right? So it wasn't barely worth anything. It was just worth the building and the lot. So now, what are we, 16 months down the line? This is what our current valuation is, right? So I bought this for 80 grand, 50 grand out of pocket, plus some out of pocket money. So about 80 grand cash out of pocket. We still owe about 75, Jane, or 50, maybe you can correct me, but we still owe some money on that. But as you see, as we continue to drive this thing forward, increase rents, get these last unit doors fixed and fill it in and have it fully filled, we're going to be nearing, our 367. Once we get these prices, maybe once the market starts to adjust a little in these next, months ahead, we can get it closer to this after update value, right? So this isn't not bad at all, considering we bought this thing for, $50,000 out of pocket. So the seller finance deals are pretty great. This is where we'll make our money. I don't really have a solid plan on when that's going to be yet. Do we put this up for sale in a year? Do we hold on to it until our mortgage is done with the seller? I'm not sure yet. I guess I'll have to take a look and see
How many years
what
do you have left on your
what the
balloon?
market is doing. We have had brokers reach out to us. There was one.
You must have three. You must have like 3 years left on your balloon.
3. Jane,
Yeah.
what are we?
Yeah, 5-year
I
balloon.
think we're
so
a
the
5 year.
20
So
Yeah,
we have about 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have time.
Yeah, you got time for sure. But I mean, you already made like almost 150 grand on it.
Yeah, so I'm inclined to hold.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm inclined to hold on to longer, just so we continue to learn off of it. Again, the money on a monthly basis, it's not really significant, but really the experience and the knowledge and really just knowing how to speak storage, makes it a huge thing for us. So for me to kind of rush and sell this when I can gain more knowledge from it, not really there yet. It's this thing. Maybe we sell it, but that will be kind of where we go. And whatever we make from this, we're going to flip that up into the next facility. And that's about it. So I mean, that's been the first full year. I do want to show you guys. Let me get out of here. One last thing.
So how much time and effort does this
Anybody have
thing
any
take, like on a
questions
weekly
so far,
basis?
though? Well, we Jane and I meet on it daily, just to kind of talk for, maybe on this particular topic, 15 minutes, 20 minutes on what needs to be addressed. How do we, what we should look at. But on my end, really, that's about it. What really takes up time is when you have to hire, those kinds of things. We're now on to our 1, 2, 3, 4th caretaker. So that stuff kind of takes up time, which is, the worst of it. really kind of hiring the person, training the person, and going through that whole process is what takes up the most time. Other than that, it's pretty smooth. Tenants find it, tenants move in. Our communication with the tenants, we try to make it very easy. All the messaging that goes out to them includes, pictures, step-by-step process on how to do things. We try to make it dummy proof, right? People don't really listen. So as much as you can try to explain something to somebody, we try to, provide guides visual guides along with, their instructions to help them kind of, get the message. But generally, most tenants move in easy, pay easily. Our collection
Do you
effort
guys work
is
on, like,
something
'cause I
that
think, are
I
y'all
guess I should
using
also mention.
storage?
We are using storage. Here, I'll show you
Okay,
that. I
yeah.
have that
So
here.
are y'all working on like the emails and updating the emails and the move-in process and like setting all the triggers
Yeah.
up and
That's
delinquency?
always a discussion, how we can make that better. How can the emails, maybe my internet's running slow here. I don't know why this, but how do we make that communication better? How do we, how can the wording on the email be better? How can we add a picture? How can the text message, these things, how do we improve the workflow of all of this is
Well,
what
because
we're
like
always
the storage emails are horrible.
Yeah.
So like what we do, Paul, is like we just go into ChatGPT and we're like, okay,
Yeah.
late payment
Yeah.
email template. And then like it makes like this really
ChatGPT
nice email, with
yeah,
the nice
ChatGPT is
text.
another team member of ours. We
Yeah,
rely pretty heavily on
yeah. That's what we do
ChatGPT
too.
for
Yeah, that's what we do.
content,
We've
either
been really trying to
emails,
our email.
text. Yeah, and for our social media content, we use AI. I actually started using in our acquisition efforts, we started using a chat AI bot, which has been excellent because it actually communicates and has discussion with our leads, which really, really just bump them up to, so that Jane can actually contact. So yeah, we're relying on AI and ChatGPT as much as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, we use, storage. I've had, my issues with storage, but it does what it does. It's definitely robust enough for a small facility for sure. When you get into larger facilities, you may have the benefit of having enough revenue coming in where, you can do things outside of the storage box. But for small facility and what we're doing, this has been fine.
What about auctions?
Auctions, we use Jane, what's the company we use?
StorageAuctions.com.
Yes. Yeah, storage auctions, they've been fantastic. We make sure we're on point with the schedule, right? Because we don't cut much slack to any tenants that are, delinquent. We start our process, right? Because you got to get all your notices out, you got to do all those things. And the fastest you can get somebody out is about 60 something days. And the longer you take, that's a unit that is going to be offline there for you, right? So we stay on that. Our when it comes to auctions, our biggest thing is, we want people to keep their stuff. We don't want to go through the auction because first of all, we're not going to make back the money that we're losing on this unit. And second of all, really, truthfully, I want people to keep their stuff, right? Like, I mean, I personally think that's probably like the worst thing ever. These, poor people. I mean, maybe they're struggling, and then next thing you know, they're losing their things. So we do everything we can to stay on top of it. We get very aggressive. Jane does a fantastic job of, calling, texting, on all fronts to let them know what's happening. And most of them actually kind of, they come out. Just last month, we had somebody, she was delinquent. It was like $300 something. We were, down to the last days, and then boom, she came up and she paid it. So your collections efforts should be, tight. Don't let things slide. That would be my suggestion. Stay on a schedule as far as, when your notices are supposed to go out. Stick to your schedule, right? Because the longer you delay this stuff, that's lost revenue there, right? I mean, if somebody's not going to pay, it does go to auction. What you want to do is you want to get them out of there as soon as possible so that you can get somebody in there paying. And with storageauctions.com, it's been great. I mean, Jane's dealt with them more than I have, so she could probably speak on that better, but it's been pretty smooth. We've had no issues, and we work well with them.
They came in and they talked at the mastermind like the last Tuesday, and it was like a fantastic presentation. So if anybody
Yeah.
missed that, make sure you go back and listen, because we've been using storageauctions.com since like, for a long time now, since like auctions online started. And I still learned a whole bunch of stuff from that presentation. So make sure y'all watch it. It was like a 30-minute, demo if you can, okay?
This is one of the reports from storage that I look at all the time. So, looking in the rear view mirror, where you were last month, where you were last year, this is what kind of keeps pushing us forward, right? I look at, our revenues, we discuss them. We discuss, our rates, how much more money we can push for that next month, right? So this is what helps that discussion. Right. We just wrapped up the quarter. Obviously things continue to grow. We're an upward trend on everything here from the start. Things will start to level off here. But we still have a while because we still have these 6 additional units. So we have potentially, anywhere from, 450 to 650-ish that we can bring online in revenue in the next month or two once we get those doors replaced. So we'll easily be nearing that 4,000 a month in revenue, which if we get our expense margin even lower, we're at about 41% right now. If we can get it down to into the 30s, we'll be doing all right, and then, this thing will make a little bit of money each month, each year.
Well, and we look at like towards the bottom here, you see move-ins and move-outs. You had 61 move-ins and you had 34 move-outs. So we try to be, for these little facilities, +4 -1. So like on a monthly basis. And it's like, so you want to look at every week we look at move in and move outs. Why are people moving out? What's, this kind of stuff too. So I think, and we also look at the management summary. This one and the management summary are the reports that we look at in storage.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to look at your numbers, right? You shouldn't fly blind.
Yeah.
You should know what you're doing. You should know what you did. You should know what you can get into this next month, into next quarter. So I really rely on our numbers, really rely on data to help us understand things, right? Because if you're just shooting from the hip, it's only going to get you so far.
Mm-hmm. And then Jane, real fast from you, like how much time and effort does this take? Does this facility take for you on a weekly basis? Like what does your day look like for this?
I'm working 8 hours a day, but like just probably 20% for the storage right now, because I'm just answering calls, answering text messages, and then that's it. If it's collection time first week, then that's when I do most of the outbound calls, outbound messages, and it's really taking just minimal of my time right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's why we feel comfortable and confident that we can bring on another facility or two in how we manage things in our footprint right now. And I mean, like I said earlier, really this facility was to really cut our teeth and understand what and how to operate a storage facility. I think Jane's pretty confident and does a phenomenal job in all things customer support. So we're ready. We're hungry for the next one, knowing what we know now, and with some of the financial goals that I have. We're looking at larger facilities, right?
Yeah, that's what's going to ask. Like, what are you looking for now? Like, what's your next step after this one?
Yeah, I mean, next step, I mean, I think, anything from, 3 to 500 units is kind of where I wanna, I wanna sink my teeth into. I don't mind operating a facility anywhere, right? We've definitely proven the fact that we can remote this, or operate this remotely. Um, that's not an issue at all. We just need to find a deal. We've been out here, actively putting out offers. But as you know, it takes a lot more offers to get there. So we're grinding away on that effort, and that's why you and I will speak later on turnkey, because
Yeah,
we do our acquisition, right? But we're only capable of so much effort. And I think bringing on your squad
it
to
takes a lot of offers.
yeah, dig
That's the
deeper
thing, it's
for
like
us
50
is gonna do
offers
the trick.
just to get one under contract. I mean, it takes a lot of offers, I know you guys are looking as well too, so, but just people don't realize how much I'm gonna try to make it clear and let them know. It takes us 200 calls to find one owner that wants an offer. And then it takes 50 offers for us to get one under contract. That's a lot, you know. Cool, awesome. I mean, it looks great. I think y'all are doing a great job. This is exactly what the purpose of Storage Nerds is just get your foot in the door. I think people get held up too much on, oh, there's no expansion. Oh, there's, it's too small or whatever. But the truth is like, it's you're paying for your education. You're paying to get your foot. And also now, Paul, you have credibility.
Right.
You have proof that you can manage this, and people are willing to give you money when you have credibility.
Yeah, and that's definitely extremely helpful, and through my social medias, and just through, my relationships with people, they understand, what I do, they know I own self-storage, it helps, right? Because that opens a conversation. I got a bunch of people that, talk to me about, oh, being interested, let me know when you got the next one. So it's great, right? It becomes kind of like, a calling card. So, kind of wrapping it up, a small facility, although it doesn't make a ton of money, it can pay you in other ways, right? Experience, knowledge, just getting
Upside.
upside, getting your experience out, getting your foot in the door, all these things, right? So, look at small facilities, when they're out there. I know sometimes they're easier to get into, just because the concept, right? And less money you can get in, as opposed to a multi-million-dollar facility that seems daunting. But if you get your small facility, you operate it well, you're definitely going to get the confidence and experience you need to be able to go to that next level.